We met in front of the food alley in Nonhyandong. Senior Sanjiop was already there. Hello. Oh, you're here. Unlike last time when he was dressed in jeans and a padded jacket, this time he wore a suit. He neatly fastened the buttons of his white shirt up to the neck, wearing a blue tie. He had trimmed his beard and tidied up his hair. With his large build and bald head, he looked like some gang leader in fancy clothes. Are you going on a date later? To my question, Senior Sanjiop chuckled. No dates. Let's just grab a meal. What would you like to eat? I'll pay for today. No, I invited you here, so I'll treat you. Now I could easily splurge on some beef. Maybe buy a whole one and have it cut into different parts. It's okay. I want to buy today. Senior Sanjiop took the lead and led us into a nearby barbecue restaurant. The sirloin steak was priced at 18,000 won per serving, not too expensive. 4 servings of sirloin and 2 bottles of beer, please. Inside the barbecue restaurant, there was a festive atmosphere as people were celebrating the end of the year. It was bustling with office workers who had just finished work. Come to think of it, isn't it a busy time for academies now? You're not going to the academy tonight? I quit. Why? I paid off all my debts. The beer arrived first. Senior Sanjiop filled our glasses. Let's have a drink. Cheers. We clinked our glasses. The cold beer went down our throats smoothly. You said you still had about 2,000 left. When did you pay everything off? In response to my question, Senior Sanjiop looked at me and said, it's all thanks to you. What do you mean? You said it yourself. You mentioned that L6 might be discontinued. After hearing that, I did some research myself. I confirmed that there have been several explosions, as you said. Takyu and I exchanged surprised looks at each other. No way, did Senior buy Seosung Electronic put options too? Senior Sanjiop shook his head. No, even after giving it some thought, I didn't think it would go as far as being discontinued. This is common sense. Who would imagine that a flagship model selling over 50 million units annually would be discontinued? I judged that if problems persist, it is highly likely to lead to a shift towards battery replacement. Even if it's not necessarily the case, if there are any disruptions in L6 sales or if there is a loss of trust and safety, wouldn't the battery manufacturers suffer a great impact? Before the recall announcement, Samsung Electronics received deliveries of L6 batteries from its subsidiary, Seosung SB. So what? Senior Sanjiop took a sip of beer and said, after depositing the money to pay off my debts, I had exactly 700,000 won left in my pocket. I used that to buy Seosung SB put options. The judgment was correct. After IM Division President Jo Dongjun announced that the cause of the explosion was the battery, Sung SB's stock price plummeted. How much did you earn from that? 150 million. Wow. Taekyu was surprised and almost choked on his breath. I was equally surprised. Earning 150 million from a 700,000 investment? In terms of return, that's over 200 times. Is this why once you try options you can't seem to let go? Even when we met in Suwon to talk, I wasn't completely convinced. If it were an ordinary person, they would have probably just brushed it off. I did mention the possibility of failure out of caution, but I didn't miss the opportunity to seize it. He isn't an ordinary person. I paid off all my debts and quit the academy. Then I stopped by the department store to buy a suit. Why a suit? You usually wear a suit for interviews. Did you have an interview today? Instead of answering, Sang Yeep Sr. asked a question. More importantly, how much did you earn? Well, how much should I say? 10 billion seems a bit much, right? As I hesitated to answer, Sang Yeep Sr. said, roughly calculating, it should be around 500 billion, right? Isn't that so? How did you? Oops. As I gestured to keep quiet, I poked Taekyu's side. Senior Sang Yeep spoke while looking at our faces. I found out from a friend in the financial sector that before the incident, a foreign company swept the put options of Samsung Electronics. Could that be you guys? I shook my head. No way. How could we have the money to buy that many put options? Right. That's what I thought too. But then, Senior Sang Yeep pointed at Taekyu. This guy mentioned he has around 10,000 units of Bitcoin, but he lost the encryption key. What if he finds that key? With that amount of Bitcoin, it's enough to buy up the put options, right? For a moment, I wondered if this person also had some kind of superpower. Couldn't be possible, could it? Did he figure out all this with just some bits of information? Since it's all speculation, there's no certainty. Maybe he's just taking a guess? I chuckled and extended my hand. Oh, senior, even as a joke. Senior Sanyeep calmly spoke while having a drink. According to that guy, the company that bought up the put options is likely to be a Japanese company. Japanese company? How does that concern us? You know why? It's because it's OTK company. Senior Sanyeep pointed at Taekyu. Your friend's name is Taekyu, right? Asterisk cough. While drinking beer, Taekyu coughed to make himself heard. If he figured out this much, saying it's no longer relevant would be useless. I chuckled disheartenedly and said, impressive. It's not that impressive. I just picked out the possibilities. Despite his bear-like appearance, he was quick-witted and sharp-minded. I had momentarily forgotten. This person is a genius recognized even at Korea University. I set down my beer glass and looked at Senior Sanyeep. Is that why you wanted to see us? Thanks to that, I've paid off all my debts, so I thought I should express my gratitude. If the truth were to come out, our names might be splashed across the newspapers tomorrow. 20-something youths who made a fortune by investing in derivatives during the stock market crash. It might be something we'll have to face someday, but not now. Can you keep it a secret? Senior Sanyeep pretended to zip his lips. Of course. I promise, as the former club president. Since he tends to keep things to himself, it's safe to trust him. There aren't many people you can easily believe if they talk about it elsewhere. Just then charcoal came in and the meat arrived. Sizzle. Amidst the quiet, the meat sizzled with a sound. Senior Sanyeep picked up a lightly cooked slice of loin and said, "What's your plan now?" "What do you mean?" "Funds are well prepared, so you're planning to invest properly, right?" "How did you know?" I feel embarrassed, as if my inner thoughts have been exposed. Do you really have superpowers? Why do you think that? If not, there would have been no need to establish a corporation. Ah. That was not for investing, but Taekyu set it up to sell off Bitcoin. It's not unreasonable to think that way if you don't know the circumstances. Senior Sanyeep looked at me and said, I thought so since I saw you in the club. Jinhu, you're going to make it big. I didn't know you would accomplish such a remarkable thing. Really? I joined the club in my freshman year of college. Unlike now, I was just an ordinary freshman back then. To beat the market, you need something beyond just calculations and analysis. Luck, intuition, or insight could be necessary. Senior Sanyeep said while sipping beer. As you know, I've been investing based on mathematical analysis of a company's intrinsic value, stock fluctuations, charts, and trends. And I've generally been successful. Using his mathematical talent, the senior created his analytical method and dived into the stock market to maximize profits and minimize losses, making tremendous gains. But in the end, I failed. Any thoughts on why? Maybe you just had bad luck? Who could have imagined that the company he invested in would fall victim to a scam and lose billions? Maybe it was luck. Not entirely wrong. So what does it mean to have good luck? Why didn't I have that luck? It took me a long time to realize. There are too many incalculable things in the market. It's filled with numerous emotions and variables that are intricately intertwined. Trying to mathematically solve all these is impossible. While you can calculate the movements of celestial bodies, you cannot calculate human madness. I nodded my head. That's a quote from Isaac Newton, Taekyu asked. The one who discovered gravity? Yeah. It's quite a famous saying in the financial world. Newton was well known as a physicist, but he dabbled in various fields as well. By the way, that quote was said after he invested in the South Sea Company and lost all his assets. Ruling the market is a mix of fear and madness. Even the most rational person finds it hard to stay calm and see the truth within it. Jinhu, you have that kind of intuition. That's why you were chosen as the next chairman. I remember when my senior warned me that I would have to take responsibility for the aftermath after he finished his drink. Senior gulped down the rest of his beer. Now tell me the outcome. What outcome? I told you. I wore a suit today to go for an interview. I was quite taken aback. Was the interview he mentioned happening right here? I was surprised. My senior, whom I had trusted and followed since my freshman days, was now asking me to hire him. What do you think? I asked with my eyes and Taekyu answered with a glance. Let the CEO handle it. That's true. Making decisions is the CEO's job. I thought rationally. While I had acquired a fortune of 67.2 billion, It paled in comparison to the financial giants moving tens of trillions. There is a cheat code called foresight, but even with that, it's not as easy as one might think for two people in their 20s to make a living together. That's why I asked for help from my older sister Hyunju. Financial investment is a battle of numbers. Corporate financial statements and consensus are filled with all sorts of numbers, and new derivative products are created with advanced financial engineering. Sanjiop, a senior at Korea University, possesses exceptional mathematical analytical skills to the extent that he is hailed as a genius even within the university. And undoubtedly, his abilities will be helpful for what I am trying to accomplish. I had already thought that I needed someone, and now that such a talented individual has come voluntarily, isn't it a good thing? Are you speaking sincerely? Sanjiop nodded solemnly. Of course. From a certain point, Sanjiop wore a firm expression. Standing tall with his shoulders back and head held high. It was as if he was a new employee preparing for an interview. His presence in a suit from the start showed his determination to be in this position. Democracy is one person, one vote, but capitalism is strictly $1, one vote. Even playing on the same board, the side with more money is decidedly advantageous. In essence, the reason he contacted me is that, in one way or another, I have billions of capital. One might see this as someone coming to leech off me, but rather I like that aspect. Recognizing an opportunity to make money and seizing it is a fundamental skill for a finance person, isn't it? Korea University Mathematics Department, Park Sanjiop. Excluding the aspect of foresight, he excels in every aspect more than me. Am I truly capable of accommodating this person? I am the current CEO of OTK Company. I need someone who can move like a fish according to my vision. Do you think you can do it well? Even if you are my junior in school, I will make a clear distinction in work, so don't worry. I think working under a competent person despite their young age is far better than working under an incompetent one. Perhaps in the future, I might end up hiring a seasoned veteran with decades of experience in the finance industry. If I can't accommodate this person, would I not lack the qualifications as a CEO? After finishing my thoughts, I reached out my hand. It's a pass. Welcome to OTK Company. /N. In the late 17th century, Newton invested heavily in the South Sea Company, which was a British trading company. The company was initially formed to trade with South America, but its stock became wildly speculative and inflated during the South Sea Bubble of 1720. The bubble was driven by irrational exuberance and the promise of enormous profits from overseas ventures, even though the company's actual prospects were dubious. Newton, who had initially been skeptical of the stock, decided to invest in it after seeing its rapid rise. At first, he made a significant profit, but as the bubble continued to inflate, he became more involved. When the market crashed and the South Sea Company's stock value plummeted, Newton suffered tremendous financial losses. He famously remarked that he could calculate the motions of celestial bodies but not the madness of crowds. The South Sea Bubble is often cited as an example of speculative frenzy and market irrationality, and Newton's experience serves as a reminder of the risks inherent in speculative investments and the limitations of even the brightest minds in predicting market behavior. After hearing the announcement of passing, Senior Sangyip exhaled with a relieved expression. Now I can catch my breath. I was quite nervous. Then relax now and drink to your heart's content. I filled his empty glass. Senior Sangyip gulped down the beer like a thirsty person and asked, "How should I address you? President? Should I start using formal speech?" I chuckled. "Just call me as before. I'll consider it when we have formal titles and more employees in the future. Who else is there at OTK Company now? Surely not just the two of us." I shook my head. "There is one more person." "Who is it?" Taekyu said, "She's Oh Hyunju, my older sister." I explained that she is currently working at the Golden Gate Asia branch and has received various assistants, including establishing the corporation thanks to her. Senior Sangyip nodded in understanding as if it only made sense now. "So that's how you were able to accomplish such remarkable tasks." Hyunju's sister's joining was planned after everything was done. But we decided to talk about it gradually. "What are the plans for the future?" "I'll tell you slowly. Let's just drink today." We moved to a nearby pub and ordered dried snacks and soju. As I poured the soju, I asked, "How was your academy work?" "Somehow I think you did well as a senior." Even though he was a popular instructor. Because he taught a kid who could only do basic arithmetic and helped him get 70 to 80 points. When he said he was going to quit, the director pleaded with him saying he would increase the bonus. If that was the case, they should have done it sooner. He is the type of person who sees things through once he starts something. He probably would have been quite successful if he had continued to be an academy instructor. These days, don't star instructors make tens of billions in salary? Have you thought about continuing? I asked, and Sanjiap Sr. burst into laughter. It's just that my body feels too restless. The world has changed significantly in recent years, and it will change even more in the future. Whether the market is rising or falling, there are plenty of opportunities if you look for them. But real big opportunities don't come easily. Big opportunities? Sanjiap Sr. nodded in response to my question. The recent events are completely different from the past. It's not just a matter of whether a company is doing well or not, but rather a process of complete restructuring of industries. When Taikyu asked, Sanjiap Sr. lifted his smartphone. This is a classic example. Initially, when Apple released the iPhone, the dominant players in the market ignored or mocked it. They thought there was no need to spend money on something they could already do with existing devices. But how about now? In less than 10 years, smartphones have displaced feature phones and become essential items in daily life. Not only that. Not only specialized but general devices like digital cameras, PDAs, MP3 players, calculators and electronic dictionaries have been pushed out of the market by smartphones. Geniuses change the world, but ordinary people only realize once the world has completely changed. But even if you're not a genius, it's entirely possible to read the trends of change and ride along. Do you think now is the opportunity? Sanjiap Sr. shrugged his shoulders. What do you think? I have the same thought. A new industry emerging is a huge opportunity for both entrepreneurs and investors. Seems like all this time in the academies they were just teaching the kids, but it looks like someone has been watching the market very carefully. I raised my glass and said, "Cheers. To OTK Company." For OTK. We drank and shared overdue stories until dawn. I woke up to find myself sprawled on the floor. Ugh. Sleeping on the hard floor instead of a nice bed made my back ache. I must have been the first to pass out among us three. How did I even get home? I vaguely remember being carried by a taxi. Looking at my phone, I saw several missed calls. The date was suddenly December 31st. Another day and it would be the next year. Time flies. I checked the missed calls and called my mother first. "Hey Mom, it's me. Don't worry, Taikyu and I are doing fine. I'll visit home soon. Are you coming tomorrow?" "Okay, got it." The newly purchased house in Dongtan was undergoing major renovations and interior work. Despite paying extra to speed up the process, it would still take a month until completion, so my mother would keep staying in the current villa. My mother insisted on spending the new year with family, saying she would bring side dishes tomorrow, and then she hung up. I made some coffee first. The living room table was piled high with reading materials. It's frustrating not to see anything that sparks an idea. I hope I'm not just beating around the bush endlessly. I wish someone would organize my investments into a portfolio and display it as a hologram right in front of me, showing where and how to invest. Am I asking for too much? Once again, as I picked up the materials to read, Taikyu came downstairs. Ugh. I'm dying after drinking for the first time in a while. He rubbed his temples with his hand, chugging down a bottle of water. Looks like you have a call. Buzz. My phone placed on the desk vibrated. Yuri's name appeared on the screen. There were several missed calls from her in the morning, but I couldn't answer them as I was asleep. Taikyu glanced at my phone and asked seriously, "Is Yuri Japanese? Why would she be Japanese?" What a strange question. I was trying to ignore the call, but Taikyu reached out and answered it before handing the phone to me. Why ignore it? Just answer. Was this kindness really necessary? Reluctantly, I brought the phone to my ear. Hello. Immediately, a woman's voice came through. Hello, Senior. I'm a junior in the Business Administration Department, Shin Yuri. Did you not save my number? Well, not exactly. Then why haven't you been answering my calls? Why keep calling someone who doesn't answer? I wanted to ask. Oh. I was sleeping earlier. You didn't answer a few days ago either. Did I? Sorry. I received a few phone calls and texts, but with so much on my mind I just let them slide. Someday when all these trials surrounding me come to an end, I plan to call her back. Yuri spoke in a softened voice. Have you had your meal? I was about to eat. Where are you now? I'm in Samseong-dong. Then would you like to have a meal together? How about 2 o'clock? Come to think of it, it was thanks to her that I found out about the L6 shutdown. Well, maybe I could have found the same information elsewhere, but the fact remains that I received help from her. I had been meaning to treat her to a meal sometime. Looking at the clock, I had about an hour until 2 o'clock. Where should I meet you? In response to my question, Yuri cheerfully said, Is it okay to meet in front of Cheongdam Gallery Department Store? Got it. Yes, senior. See you later. After the call ended, Taekyu asked, Who was that? A junior from school. A junior you contact privately. His gaze turned cold. At such an important time, this OTK company CEO is dating. I exclaimed in confusion, Dating? She's just a junior. Taekyu tapped my shoulder and said, Don't forget your duty, my friend. I muttered, What duty? Come out with me and we'll talk when you get back. I quickly washed up, put on some clothes and checked my wallet before putting on my shoes. There were only 3 10,000 won bills in my wallet. I had money left from selling the house, but I didn't have a separate card. Cheongdam-dong must be expensive for a meal. Hey, can you lend me some money? Taekyu looked surprised. You have money. Thought, what's the point of earning billions? It's all tied up in overseas accounts. I only had 30,000 won on me. Come on, lend me 100,000 won. I'll pay you back later. Taekyu reluctantly took out 2 50,000 won bills from his wallet and handed them to me. Use it wisely. Don't be extravagant. I never thought I'd end up in this situation with this guy. I felt unjust and thought maybe I should work at a cafe part-time. But for now, I politely accepted the money with both hands as every penny counted. I'll be back. Gallery Department Store is located at the beginning of Cheongdam-dong Luxury Street. On the first floor of the department store, well-known international luxury brands boast glamorous interiors. And following the guidance of the parking attendant, luxury cars kept entering the parking lot one after another. The atmosphere was filled with year-end vibes on the street. Christmas decorations that had not been taken down yet were still visible in various places, and the people passing by had excited expressions. Even though it's in Gangnam, the feeling of being in an affluent neighborhood was stronger. Coincidentally, a model-like woman was being photographed against the backdrop of the street nearby. She seemed to have come out from a shopping mall for the shoot. After taking a few photos in a coat, the woman went into a Benz parked nearby, changed her clothes and came out. Surprisingly, this time she was wearing a thin short-sleeved shirt. She struck a lively pose as if she was enjoying the hot summer sun. Wearing a short-sleeved shirt in such freezing weather. What's the point of that at minus 10 degrees Celsius? Earning money must be so difficult. Continuing to watch, a familiar face appeared across the street. Dressed in tight blue jeans, a white knit top and a half coat on top. Black loafers on the feet. Unlike last time, she had her blonde hair tied up in a ponytail. As she walked, the ponytail swayed, revealing her pure white nape. Whether it was due to her bright hair color or her appearance, she stood out. Maybe I'm not the only one who thinks so, as people passing by glanced at her, and even couples holding hands turned to look at her. She's undeniably beautiful. The person in front of me slightly nodded their head. Hello, senior. Have you been waiting long? I just arrived. What would you like to eat? Surely they wouldn't suggest going to a fancy restaurant, right? Then it's settled and we'll split the bill. Since it's cold, how about some warm udon? There's a famous place nearby. Udon. Do you dislike it? No, I like it. Surprisingly choosing a cheap menu. Admirable. The udon restaurant was located on a side street near the department store. Even though it was past lunchtime, there was a long line in front of the store. Among them, several Japanese people could be seen. Curious, I asked, why are Japanese people lining up at a Korean udon restaurant? It's like Koreans lining up at a kimchi stew restaurant in Tokyo. Suddenly craving hometown food during travel? This is a restaurant operated by Kai Lee. That's why many Japanese fans visit here. It's also mentioned in travel guides. Who is Kai Lee? A member of BCB. Don't you know? I nodded. No, I know. BCB is a globally famous idol group, not just in Korea. Yuri looked at me meaningfully and said, Looks like you're only interested in female idols, senpai? No, it's not that. I wasn't originally interested in female idols. It's just that due to the senior soldiers in the military constantly watching idol shows, I've become somewhat familiar with them now. The line quickly decreased. The turnover rate seems fast here given the menu. We sat down. Coincidentally, the tables on both sides were occupied by Japanese tourists. As the Japanese could be heard all around, it was getting hard to tell if this place was for Koreans or Japanese. Seems like Taekyu would like this atmosphere. Should I bring him next time? The ordered udon quickly arrived. Enjoy your meal. Yuri picked up the wooden chopsticks and pushed the noodles into her mouth. Slurp. Slurp. Seeing her eat without pretending to be pretty made me think she is cute. They say udon noodles taste better when eaten all at once without cutting them. Please eat quickly. Got it. I didn't have high expectations just because it was a celebrity-owned restaurant, but surprisingly, the food was good. It even seemed to help with my hangover. I came out 10 minutes earlier than our meeting time and you were already here. Why did you come to Samseong-dong? My friend moved to Samseong-dong recently. It's near Samseong Park. I added that my friend bought a house and we decided to live together. Yuri's eyes twinkled at my words. So you're now a resident of Gangnam too, senior. We'll see each other often as neighbors. Yeah, sure. Moved and suddenly we're considered neighbors. Was she always this friendly? Most likely not. Once Yuri invited me to a drinking session without knowing that I had broken up with Sian, who is dating or breaking up with whom within the company can easily be known through gossip. Not knowing that means she is not someone who gets along well with everyone. But why is she like this with me? While talking she ate diligently but Yuri put down her chopsticks first. That was delicious. Not a drop of broth was left in her bowl. Why is she eating so well? As I was about to get up after finishing everything, Yuri took out her card to pay. I was going to treat you. Then Yuri laughed as she stuck out her tongue slightly. I suggested that we should see it so I should buy it. Senpai, please buy something even more delicious next time. Seems like it was their plan from the beginning. We stepped outside the store. I was feeling lonely eating by myself, so I'm glad you came. Don't you cook at home? I live alone. Oh, is that so? As soon as they mentioned living alone, a curiosity that wasn't there before started to arise. Is your place nearby? It's right over there. Yuri's finger pointed to a large apartment complex behind the Gallery Mall. What? Living alone in a luxury apartment in Cheongdam-dong by the Han River? Would you like to go see it? Huh. I was momentarily taken aback by the unexpected suggestion. What does this mean? Even though we are in the same department at school, inviting a man to a woman's home when she lives alone. This clearly means the apartment has a nice walking path. There's a cafe on the top floor for residents where you can drink coffee while overlooking the Han River. Oh really? I quickly adjusted my expression. I almost got excited for a moment. Why are you acting like that? Huh. It's nothing. Let's go. To the apartment complex it was a short walk. To enter the complex we had to use the resident card key. Outsiders couldn't even get a foot in. Stepping inside I felt the grandeur of over 2,000 households in the complex. Cars went straight underground from the entrance and on the ground level there were walking paths, fountains, playgrounds and more. As it was a large complex and a luxury apartment, the landscaping was well done. It felt like a well-made park. We walked slowly along the walking path. It's nice for a walk. But don't you have Samseong Park right in front of your house, senpai? Isn't that a better place for a walk? Well, that's true, but I haven't actually been inside that park. It's funny how places near home that are tourist spots are often left unexplored. How long have you been living here? I've been here since I was young. I went to kindergarten and elementary school around here. I had to move to another place temporarily due to redevelopment and moved back here about 6 months ago. It seems like they got the apartment through a housing association membership. Could it be a property owned instead of rented? Why do you live alone? My parents are living abroad due to work. I looked around the apartment complex. Aren't the housing prices here expensive? Yuri nodded. The smallest unit would be around 2.3 billion won. Despite the economic downturn, real estate prices are soaring. The rise in Gangnam housing prices is overwhelming. If it's an apartment in Cheongdam-dong with a view of the Han River, it's not surprising. Still 2.3 billion for one apartment. Isn't this not just expensive but excessively so? If you have the heart for it, you could probably own several hundred units, but I don't think it's cheap in that sense. No matter how much money you have, you might still think instant ramen costing 5,000 won is expensive. You said it's the 2000s generation, so is it around 46 trillion won in total? No, even if the smallest unit is 2.3 billion won, adding up the larger units could make it around 6 to 7 trillion won, right? Amazingly, such houses are selling. Are people all hoarding around 2 billion won in cash at home? At the time of sale it was still 1.8 billion won. Even then it was considered high-priced. If you just received the pre-sale rights, you would have made 500 million just by sitting down. Making money seems so easy. What's the point of working endlessly? Just need to be good at buying real estate. Of course you probably need at least 10 billion won to start with. If you can afford to live in such an apartment alone, it's no ordinary home. But really, did you invite me over because you don't like eating alone? Well, that too, but also because what you said last time bothered me. What did I say? Stopping in her tracks, Yuri asked me. How did you know that the L6 would be discontinued, senior? Was it because of this after all? At first it would have seemed like nonsense. Then when the announcement of the discontinuation actually came, they must have been shocked. To put it bluntly, it's like predicting 6 correct lottery numbers. I deliberately told Sanjiap Sr., but telling her was a complete mistake. Yuri looked at me meaningfully. If I try to explain now, she will continue to doubt. Fortunately, I had expected such a question even before she asked it and had prepared an answer. Casually I said, didn't you see that on the gossip site? 3 days after buying it, the L6 exploded. My words left Yuri perplexed. Yeah. Is that so? Yeah. It was chaos with bombs or whatever from then on. I mentioned that because it came to mind. Yuri chuckled as if puzzled. Oh really? That's what it was. I asked as if I didn't understand English. What did you think it was then? I thought maybe the senior had heard information from a supplier or somewhere in advance. Although I was wrong, I feel a bit embarrassed. I chuckled dryly. Who would tell me something like that? But precognition will tell me. I hope they tell me one more thing within a few days. Whether my doubts were completely resolved or not, Yuri's expression returned to normal. Nevertheless, it would have been nice to know about the discontinuation in advance. Changing phones is quite a hassle. With a feature phone you only need to transfer contacts, but with a smartphone you have to transfer contacts, photos, music and more. The L6 was discontinued after a recall. As a result, buyers had to visit the store twice to exchange their phones. Rather, my mom is upset because her stocks in Samsung Electronics dropped. She said she would have sold them earlier if she had known the L6 would be discontinued. How many shares do you have anyway? You don't have hundreds, do you? She's gotten a bit better. But she's still in the negative. What do you think, senior? Would it be better to sell now? After some thought, I replied, if it were me, I'd probably continue holding on to them. Why? Even if there's a setback for now, by the time the next model comes out, it should recover. Yuri chuckled. After going through something like that, do you think people will still buy Samsung Electronics phones? Surprisingly, consumers have a strong loyalty to the Samsung brand. Most opted for exchange programs instead of refunds. You're the same. And Samsung's main focus is not smartphones or electronics, but semiconductors. I recalled the internal report from Golden Gate that I read before arriving. One of the core aspects of the fourth industrial revolution is connectivity. The Internet of Things (IoT) means everything is connected. For this to happen, semiconductors are essential in each product. Semiconductors are an oligopoly industry with inelastic supply. Increasing demand doesn't easily lead to increased supply, and decreasing demand doesn't easily lead to decreased supply. Therefore, a demand increase immediately leads to price hikes, and a demand decrease leads to price drops. As time goes on, if semiconductor demand keeps increasing, it won't decrease. As the world's largest semiconductor company, Samsung Electronics will benefit. It was my own words, but it sounded plausible. I must be pretty impressive, right? Yuri looked at me skeptically. Are you sure about that? I shrugged. It's just my personal opinion. I'm not a financial expert. Yuri smiled broadly. Those so-called financial experts often get it wrong. Fund managers can't even match the market returns. Now that I look A dimple appears when she smiles. I feel like poking it. Beating the market is that tough. Anyway, listening to the senior's advice, I should hold on to it rather than sell. I was surprised. Do you have some too? Yes. I used my allowance during the recent crash to buy 20 shares. Happiness may not be based on academic performance, but university admissions are. In Korea, most students are admitted based on their scores on the National College Entrance Exam and school grades. However, with each change in the education system, various admission methods have emerged, including some that could be considered loopholes. In other words, some people buy their way into university even with slightly lower grades. I wonder if this person also entered university that way? Upon discovering their wealth, you can't help but view them through colored lenses. Regardless, living alone in an apartment worth over 2 billion won, buying stocks worth over 20 million every month for pocket money, suggests they come from an affluent household. Who are their parents? How were they raised like this? It would be strange to ask such questions, right? We walked slowly, having various conversations. Usually Yuri talked while I listened. Are you returning to school next year? Well, I'm not sure. As we continued walking along the path, we saw an elderly lady with white hair and a hunched back approaching from the opposite direction. She wore a floral-patterned hat and a thick fur vest. I remembered our grandmother in the countryside welcoming her grandson. He passed away now, though. The elderly lady looked at Yuri with a knowing smile. Oh, it's been a while since my dear grandniece visited. Yuri stopped and politely greeted her. Hello, grandmother. Are you out for a walk despite the cold? I can't just stay at home all day, my joints will ache. She glanced at me and asked, Who's this young man? Your boyfriend. To avoid any misunderstanding, I quickly interjected. It's just a senior from school. Grandmother murmured as if she didn't hear me. Oh, the young lady is old enough to get married by now. Yuri blushed bright red. Married? Oh no, grandmother. I'm still only 20. Hee, back in our days at that age we were already married, giving birth and all. Buy yourself some delicious treats with this money, the grandmother said, pulling out a folded 5,000 won bill from her pocket. Yuri reached out her hand. It's okay. I have plenty of money. And she really did have a lot. While other young adults spend their allowance on clothes or drinks, she would buy over 20 shares of stocks worth more than 1 million won each with her allowance. The grandmother forcibly placed the banknote in Yuri's hand. It's okay. When elders give, you just say, thank you, and take it. Reluctantly taking the money, Yuri bowed her head again. Thank you, grandmother. All right then. The old man will take his leave now, so you young ones have fun and enjoy yourselves together. Have a good time doing whatever you youngsters do, like going on dates or something. It's not a date though. I waved goodbye to the grandma, walking away with her back turned. Take care. Then I asked Yuri. Do you know her? She's the grandmother who used to live next door. She used to run a business where the gallery department store is now. She always treated me kindly since I was little. Did she live here even before the reconstruction? Yes. It used to be a small 8-story apartment back then. Anyone who wasn't a resident found it hard to come in. Does she still live here? Yes. Now she lives in the building next door. Including her children, they own 3 homes. Wow. Even the smallest unit costs 2.3 billion won. With 3 units, it's nearly 7 billion won. I thought she was a rural grandma, but turns out she's incredibly wealthy. That's why you shouldn't judge people solely based on appearances. When I showed interest, Yuri shared a few things with me. Around 40 years ago from now, the grandma obtained an apartment through a loan using the money she earned from her business. She didn't particularly have an investment goal at the time. She never imagined that Cheongdam-dong would become such an affluent neighborhood. She just wanted to have her own home and later bought another unit hoping her children would live nearby. Neighbors sold their houses and moved out, but the grandmother continued to hold her ground. As decades passed, the apartment deteriorated. Water leaked from the ceiling and rusted pipes let out discolored water. When talks of redevelopment began, the property value soared. Before actual redevelopment could take place, numerous procedures had to be followed, including approvals from authorities, agreements from association members, selecting a construction company, and more. In the meantime, someone sold their unit for around 1 or 1.5 billion won. Do you know how much the apartment price was originally? How much was it? It was 18 million won. Over 40 years later, the redevelopment started. The old, small 8-story apartment was torn down, and a new high-rise building stood in its place. The floor area ratio more than doubled, turning 2 units into 3 entrances. Not just the grandmother but everyone who lived here before benefited from the redevelopment. My father mentioned how competitive it was even before the redevelopment began. It was a large apartment complex in an upscale area in Gangnam. With 2,000 units, the construction cost alone would easily reach 1 trillion won. The construction company would have made significant profits. I pondered deeply. The media reported on how much premium was added to the apartments sold. The buyers were happy to see their property values rise. But some people truly made money. Those who already owned the land and property before the redevelopment along with the construction company. Redevelopment is not charity. The selling price is set to secure sufficient profits for the association members and the construction company. The buyers are essentially consumers. The current price for this apartment is 2.3 billion won. If you bought it during the pre-redevelopment phase, it might have been 1.5 billion or less. The greatest profit was made by none other than the grandmother we met earlier, who bought the apartment for just 18 million won. Companies are the same. Typically, corporates aim for listing. When a successful listing occurs, the founding entrepreneurs, initial investors who believed in those entrepreneurs, and institutions involved in the IPO rake in massive profits and celebrate. Investors trading listed stocks are fixated on the fluctuations, whether they rise or fall by a few percent. If you want to invest in a successful company, it is better to invest in it during its early stages rather than after it goes public to maximize profits. The vague thoughts wandering in my mind have now been consolidated into one. I've been completely barking up the wrong tree all this time. So, despite looking at stocks endlessly, nothing came to mind. This time it became clear to me. As I stood still, lost in thought, Yuri looked at me. "Why is that look, senior?" I smiled slightly. "I think I finally know what to do." Yuri seemed puzzled. "What do you mean?" "I think I should be off now." "What? Without even having coffee?" "Let's have it next time." I'm too impatient to leisurely drink coffee. About to turn around, I hesitated. Every time I meet her, I feel like I gain something little by little. "Thank you," Yuri asked in confusion. "What's going on?" "If things work out, I'll treat you to an expensive meal later." I sent a text to Hyunju Nuna on my way back home. "I have some information. I will send the list, so please send it as soon as you check." When I entered the house, Taekyu was playing a game in the living room. "You're home early. It's not the time to be playing games now." "Then what time should we be doing?" "You know what we should do." Taekyu immediately stopped the game he was playing. "What's up? Did you see something as an oracle eye?" "Not at all, just listen to me." I talked about the grandmother I met at Cheongdam-dong's apartment. 2 apartments worth 18 million won each have turned into 3 apartments worth 23 billion won after 45 years. Even roughly calculated, it's a 150-fold increase. Considering the inflation rate over the years, it must have been a tremendous rate of return. If we liken a completed apartment to a listed company on the stock exchange, sales would be like an IPO. An old apartment before redevelopment is like an unlisted stock. Assuming the property value continues to rise, which would yield a higher rate of return, buying after sales ends or buying before redevelopment is decided. Taikyu's eyes widened in surprise. "You were just a junior and you ended up following me home? Is that important right now? What on earth did this kid hear?" I continued explaining using an example. During the Industrial Revolution, new industries replaced existing ones. It's like how cars emerged and horse carriages disappeared. It took over 100 years for cars to completely replace horse carriages. However, currently, the speed at which this happens exceeds imagination. Companies like Airbnb, which rent out spare rooms, have surpassed the value of hotel chains like Hilton, and car-sharing services like Uber have exceeded the value of traditional car companies like GM in less than a decade. Taekyu, after hearing the explanation, clicked his tongue. Is that the case with Airbnb and Uber? It's understandable not to know well. In Korea, Airbnb is only allowed in a limited manner, while Uber is completely illegal. The competitors of Airbnb include lodging establishments including hotels, and Uber's competitors are taxi companies. It's natural for existing businesses to fiercely oppose as their livelihoods are at stake. The government is aware of their opinions, so regulations cannot be lifted easily. When cars appeared in the UK, carriage drivers vehemently opposed. They even passed a law claiming that cars couldn't run faster than carriages. Despite their efforts to delay change, they couldn't stop it. It only resulted in the UK falling behind in the automotive industry. In the US and Europe, it has become common to call for an Uber rather than hail a taxi. I expressed my conclusion. I'm going to invest in startups. What are startups? They refer to newly established small and medium-sized businesses that jump into new businesses with ideas. Both Airbnb and Uber started as startups and have now grown into unicorns with market caps exceeding tens of trillions. Unicorn, like that horned horse in fantasy? Exactly. A unicorn refers to an unlisted startup with a valuation exceeding $1 billion. It was once considered only imaginable to surpass $1 billion before going public. But now such companies are emerging rapidly. This is one of the phenomena of the fourth industrial revolution era. The survival rate of startups is extremely low. About 8 or 9 out of 10 are expected to fail within 3 years. Remember the dot-com bubble? Taekyu shook his head. I don't remember. Well, we are not from that generation. In Korea, it is better known as the Kosdaq bubble. Around the end of the 20th century, people were ecstatic when the internet world opened up. At that time, the internet was seen as a limitless new continent full of possibilities. Just like the daring individuals who crossed over to the American continent, slaughtering the indigenous people, to establish their nation, courageous people charged into the internet world without fear. It felt like immense wealth would pour out once they planted their flag there. Investors enthusiastically poured funds into this vision. The dot-com bubble crossed the Pacific Ocean and landed in Korea. During the process of overcoming the IMF crisis, Korea was focused on building IT infrastructure and nurturing ventures. It was a new investment opportunity. A frenzy swept across the nation with the Kosdaq boom. Investors scrambled to buy shares of internet-related companies. Everyone from a mother holding a baby to a retired monk appeared in the market waving money, shouting to buy Kosdaq stocks. Even companies unrelated to the internet saw their stock prices skyrocket just for being listed on Kosdaq. One prominent example was Serum Technology. Its stock hit the daily limit increase, leaving many investors frustrated that they couldn't buy in. Fueled by investors' enthusiasm, the stock that was 2,500 won soared to 300,000 won. Companies that hadn't made a profit rose to the 7th position in the industry rankings. However, bubbles eventually burst. If they don't burst, they wouldn't be called bubbles in the first place. Contrary to investors' expectations, internet speeds and both hardware and software technologies were inadequate at that time. Expectations and hopes drove stock prices up, but companies failed to deliver promised results. Unable to sustain themselves with profits, many companies started facing bankruptcy when investments dried up. The Kosdaq, which had reached its all-time high, plummeted by over 70% in no time, turning many stocks into scraps of paper. Despite efforts to establish various investor protection measures and changing index calculation methods, the Kosdaq has not been able to recover even half of its previous peak to this day. The dot-com bubble vanished as quickly as soap bubbles. However, it did leave behind something. Although most companies that received investments at that time failed, there were very few solid companies that survived. Those companies survived even in the dot-com bubble and went on to embrace the advent of the internet era. As technology progressed, more startups emerged. They planted their flags in the land where competitors were perishing, beginning to mine for gold. The dot-com bubble was a byproduct of the third industrial revolution. Now we're in the era of the fourth industrial revolution. Startups diving into new industries are emerging rapidly. Most may fail, but a few will survive and grow into large corporations, leading the economy in the future. Our task is to pick out the companies that will survive. Is that possible? It's not easy, of course. Investing in a successful startup can bring in a lot of money, but nobody rushes into investments lightly. The reason is simple. It's challenging to identify the companies that will grow even after passing through rigorous screening to go public. Investing in what was believed to be a good company, only to see it get delisted with shares reduced to worthless scraps, is a common occurrence. What about startups in their early stages now? Finding a startup among numerous others that won't fail and will grow is like finding a needle in a haystack. But we have something others don't. Taikyu murmured. Oracle Eye. I snapped my fingers. That's right. I searched for startup-related information on the internet. Finding information about private companies is not easy compared to public companies. Certainly, there are limits to the information that individuals can access through simple searches. I read through the information I found on the internet. Although it seemed well written, most of it was superficial. Well, they wouldn't make all the really important information available for everyone to see, right? That's why we need help from industry insiders. As I scratched my head in contemplation, Taikyu asked, "What's wrong?" I handed the materials I had read to Taikyu. "Since it's in Korean, want to give it a read?" "Hand it over." Taikyu took the material and started reading. While sipping coffee and searching for more information, an email notification chimed in. Ring. Finally, it's here. I quickly opened the mailbox. The sender was Hyunju. Just got a chance to check my emails. I have sent the available materials urgently. I'll send the rest as I find them. Looks like she's really busy and must be even more so at the end of the year. I printed out all the PDF files attached to the email. The printer continuously spat out pages. What kind of material is this now? Golden Gate, a global investment bank, has branches worldwide and houses several investment firms under its umbrella. Among them is an agency specializing in startup investments. Startups in need of investment present detailed proposals filled with ideas and passion, knocking on doors here and there. The top talents working at Golden Gate meticulously review these proposals, selecting startups with growth potential for investment decisions. Taikyu, who heard the explanation, asked, "So, is this a list of startups invested in by Golden Gate?" I shook my head. No, it's the other way around. Entrepreneurs challenging the new industry have ideas and passion. However, ideas and passion do not directly translate into marketability. There are numerous experiments and trial and error before ideas and passion come to fruition. This process is called scaling up. To endure the scaling up process and bring marketable products to the market, money is needed. That's why startups seek investors. Even if they are fortunate to receive investments, not everyone succeeds. Many startups fail for various reasons. The product turns out poorly, insufficient funds, being too ahead of their time, being entangled in regulations, being caught in patent disputes, or being outpaced by competitors with better products. To borrow from Tolstoy, successful companies succeed for the same reasons, but failed companies fail for their own unique reasons, right? Companies that have successfully secured funding through approved proposals don't need to worry. Those companies can attract investors regardless of us. What I am focusing on is the failed startups. I told Taikyu, from these, finding unicorns is what we should be doing now. Information poured in through emails. As I reviewed the information, Taikyu printed and organized it for me. The printed material piled up like a mountain. I never expected there would be so many startups seeking investors. Since the data seemed to be from Golden Gate, American companies were the most abundant. However, there was diversity in nationalities beyond that. Not only advanced countries like the USA, Canada, Australia, the UK, France, and Finland, but also emerging countries like China, India, Indonesia, Vietnam, Cambodia, and the Philippines. I meticulously reviewed each proposal. Since the late-night snack has arrived, let's eat. Yes. Looking at the clock, it was getting closer to midnight. On the living room table, there was kimchi stew and spicy stir-fried pork that Taikyu had ordered set up. Since neither of them knew how to cook, they opted for delivery food for all their meals. Fortunately, not only pizza or fried chicken but also stews, soups, and even sashimi or course meals could all be delivered to their home. This time, they managed to convince each other to change the menu order from a Chinese restaurant. Humans have evolved to the point where they can survive without even taking a step outside. Humanity, once involved in hunting and gathering, can now order food with a few clicks on a smartphone, indicating evolution in some aspects. When you eat, put down the documents. Nothing will happen if you don't look for a moment. Okay, got it. I temporarily put down the documents I was holding. Taikyu turned on the TV. Celebrities gathered at the year-end awards show, preparing to welcome the new year. Small screen views of the backstage are shown below. Around 11:50, the screen completely changed, with the backstage view becoming the main focus and the awards show venue becoming the smaller screen. The reporter, exhaling white breath, spoke. Despite the cold weather, many people are gathered around the venue to welcome the new year. We hope that everyone's wishes for the new year come true. We have about 10 minutes left until the new year. The area around the venue was bustling with crowds. The reporter conveyed the on-site situation by interviewing families who had come from the countryside. Have you ever been there on the 31st? No. It's better to watch from home than to go there just to see people. It's more comfortable. That's true. As the clock struck exactly midnight, the reporter said vigorously, "Shall we all shout together? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ding, ding." The sound of the New Year's bell echoed. Finally, a new year had begun. Taikyu spoke while eating. "Happy New Year." "Oh, you do? Happy New Year." Normally, he didn't care much about such things, but this time it felt different for some reason. Had he gone through too much in such a short time? "But don't you think we've done well?" "What?" "Just everything." I could tell what he was trying to say. Thanks to Taikyu finding the Bitcoin encryption key, suddenly 13.6 billion won appeared, and I multiplied that money to tens of billions through my foresight. Until just before discharge I was broke, but now I'm contemplating which company to acquire. If he achieved this much, it would be enough to praise himself. Let's do even better this year. The New Year morning has dawned. Mother visited the house early in the morning, carrying loads in both hands. "Wishing you a happy new year. May you too also receive a lot of blessings in the new year." Mother first put away the things she brought into the refrigerator. The empty refrigerator was now filled with side dishes. "The fridge is so big but there's nothing to eat. Are you taking care of your meals regularly?" "I'm eating well. In reality I often eat when hungry and skip when not. But why do you look so tired?" "I didn't sleep well last night. I stayed up late looking at documents." "Did I sleep for an hour or 3? Meanwhile, Taikyu, who went to bed early and rose early, looked energetic. "Let me show you around the house." Following Taikyu's lead, Mother looked around the house. "The house is nice. But why is it so messy?" "It's because I don't clean. Should I hire a housekeeper?" I expected this when two men lived together. Mother took out rubber gloves and detergent from her bag. "When did you prepare those?" Then she started cleaning, starting with the bathroom. "I'll do it, Mother." "You can rest, Taikyu, since you can do it alone." "No, I like cleaning." "If you like it, why didn't you do it earlier?" Taikyu also put on rubber gloves and got to work. While Mother and Taikyu were deep cleaning the house, I continued to skim through the startup proposal. The cleaning was finally done by lunchtime. Mother went to the nearby market to buy groceries and cooked tteokguk. We all sat around the table together and enjoyed the Lunar New Year tteokguk. With a nonchalant tone, Mother asked, "Is everything going well with work?" "Yes." Even without showing it, she seemed very concerned. "Health is more important than money, so don't overdo it. Always be careful of scammers." "Don't worry." I nodded dryly, but Taikyu confidently said, "I will take good care of the business." "Hey Taikyu. Would you like more tteokguk?" "Yes." After the meal, Mother cleaned up the kitchen and then put on her shoes. "Let's go out together." I followed Mother outside to see her off. Still, the house is nice. The location is good and there's a park nearby. How about living in Gangnam? You can find even better places than the house in Dongtan. Mother shook her head. Enough. I like the house your father built the best. If we didn't have money, Mother would still be struggling right now. And she probably wouldn't even dare to sell that house. That's why I might need to work hard to earn money. I reluctantly convinced Mother, who wanted to take the bus, to take a taxi instead. "Since you will be back, make sure to eat well. I've put some frozen soup in the fridge so you can heat it and eat." "Got it." "Stay strong, our son. Take care on your way in." As I watched the taxi leave, I felt a renewed sense of enthusiasm. Should I give it another try? Judging the success of a business solely based on reading a proposal shows a lack of insight and can be a tough task. Some ideas may leave you astonished, thinking, how did they come up with this idea? While others may make you question, did they present this as an idea? Businesses that are easy for investors to understand often have successful models already established in the market. Completely new businesses may need to create demand by supplying products to establish a market. Whether one side succeeds or not, only trying will tell. Taekyu once again piled a mountain of documents in front of me. Is this all? About half. I'm still pulling the rest. Ugh. To review all of this, wouldn't it take being glued to it day and night for a week? Take it easy. Maybe Hyunju is used to this as a daily routine. Both domestically and internationally, top IB executives are predominantly male. This is largely due to a male-dominated corporate culture and the glass ceiling, but also because the workload is physically demanding for women. Monitoring the stock market, bond market, and commodity markets daily, keeping track of government policies and global economic trends. Starting work in the early hours of the morning and leaving late at night is basic. And during busy times, one must continue working on various tasks even after returning home. Before the Asian stock market closes, the European stock market opens, and before the European stock market closes, the US stock market opens. The reason why finance professionals earning hundreds of millions in salary can't endure and resign. Perhaps Hyunju Nuna also cannot have a proper night's sleep for even a few hours a day. I thought it was really amazing. Not only did she get into Golden Gate, which is called the dream job in the finance sector, but she also got promoted to team leader. It's a matter of whether it's okay to add great effort to innate talent. On the other hand, Taekyu lacks enthusiasm in everything and has a relaxed personality. Truly, his personality is completely opposite to Hyunju's, to the extent that it's hard to believe they are siblings. As a result, compared to Hyunju Nuna, who studied and worked hard, Taekyu earned much more money. Thanks to hitting it big in Bitcoin, followed by Samsung Electronics put options. That's why life is unpredictable. Although he couldn't handle the workload alone, he couldn't ask for help from others either. Others don't have the same abilities as me. Thus, unlike me who works tirelessly and can't sleep properly, Taekyu is overflowing with leisure. Did he know this would happen, so he passed all the shares to me?